Can y'all hear me there on the line? I think I've muted everyone, actually. Let's see, I'll unmute you. Kiki, is that a thumbs up? You can hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you. So welcome, everybody. My name is Melissa Jones, and I'm a community manager here at code.org. I'm excited to welcome you to our October monthly meeting for the CS Fundamentals curriculum, which is our K through 5 curriculum, courses 1 through 4. Tonight, Laura Klein unfortunately couldn't join us. She had a conflicting meeting, but I'm very excited to share her updates with you. We're also joined by Kiki Prottsman, our program manager for CS Fundamentals, and our special guest, Maria Litvin, who is a high school teacher and a K-5 affiliate in Massachusetts. Maria has some really exciting and challenging problems to share with us that I think you guys will all be interested in. So our goals tonight, first and foremost, as usual, the goal of these calls is to connect as a community and to help give you information and an opportunity to form bonds and to meet other teachers who are teaching the same curriculum as you. Tonight we're going to explore some opportunities to challenge your K-5 students that Maria is going to be sharing with us. And then later, Kiki is going to be discussing strategies for modifying the CS Fundamentals curriculum to meet your student needs, whether your students are advanced, your students are struggling. She's going to help you figure out how to do that. We'll have some time at the end for questions, concerns, and feedback for the group and some exciting announcements about Hour of Code. So just to get started, if this is your first time using BlueJeans, please be aware that you can see us and you can hear us, but we can't see you unless you have your microphone and your webcam on. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. If you do have something that you'd like to add, there is a chat window right above you that you can go ahead and click on, and that's a great place to introduce yourself, to put a question for the presenter, feedback, share a link, anything that you'd like to share. The chat pod's a great place to do that. Then later, when we have discussion time, you can activate your microphone and your webcam by clicking just below your picture, and then we will be able to hear you and see you. And when we get to that point of the agenda, I will explain more about how to do that. Before we dive into tonight's agenda, I just wanted to call your attention to the fact that code.org recently released the results of our 2014-2015 program evaluation. So for the past year, actually longer than a year, since the beginning of code.org, we've been studying our impact and studying the results of our programs. And over the last year, 2014 to 2015, we actually saw a huge number of students and teachers that we reached through our efforts with a high degree of satisfaction and some really interesting findings around effectiveness, cost per teacher, cost per student, and scale and reach. So I really encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to take a look, to go to code.org/about/evaluation and take a look at our results and then give us feedback. Where are we doing well? Where can we improve? We really value the community and we value your input. And then also just to say thank you to all of you who are out there teaching CS Fundamentals every day, who are using courses 1 through 4, leading unplugged lessons, stretching yourself outside of your comfort zone. We really appreciate the teachers that are using our curriculum and giving us feedback and helping us to make it better. What I'm going to do now is introduce you to a phenomenal teacher that we're very excited to have tonight, Maria Litvin. Maria is a code.org K-5 affiliate from Andover, Massachusetts, and she's also a high school teacher. And Maria is going to share with you some really interesting ideas for how you can stretch your computer science curriculum in your grades 3 through 5 curriculum. So Maria, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Melissa. Hi, everybody. I'm Maria. Again, as Melissa said, I teach math and computer science in high school. It's Phillips Academy, Andover, Massachusetts. As a code.org affiliate and also a grandma of a couple of kids who are grandkids, a 6-year-old and 9-year-old, my husband and I started writing computer contest questions for the little kids. And Continental Mathematics League is an organization that has a contest in mathematics and other subjects for over 35 years. And they heard all the information coming from everywhere with code.org and Hadi explaining and promoting computer science. And they asked my husband and me to write the contest for the young kids for computer science. And so that's what we're doing. And I wanted to share with you these contest questions So you will see, and then you will see them. They're also available for you to use with your elementary school kids. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. So the contest itself is consists of 3 meets, one in January, one in February, one in March. Each it has 6 questions for 30 minutes, and it's completely unplugged. Students don't need a computer to do their problems. And what is interesting that we tried it with students who have no programming experience and they're able to do it. But of course, students who've done some puzzles, code.org puzzles from studio.code.org, they are doing better because they already seen different kinds of puzzles and they can see patterns better. So the teachers receive these questions and answers and solutions in advance and administer the contest close to the specified time, one in January, one in February, and one in March. Yeah, let's take a look at the next slide. The teacher grades the work because they have all the answers, and they send the top 6 answers to CML. And then CML determines the winners for individual meets and also for the whole contest. What is interesting is that a teacher, like you can have all students in grades 3 to 5 to participate and have these interesting questions. And then just take 6 of these scores that are the best and send those scores. And you can mix a team could consist of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders together. But if you have a separate teams, one for 3rd graders, one for 4th graders, one for 5th graders, then the 3rd graders don't need to solve as many puzzles to consider it, because they'll be graded against other 3rd graders and they will do better. And CML sends medals and they send certificates, and it's always very lovely at the end. Many kids are rewarded for the experience. But yeah, and then the best teams have regional and recognition or national recognition. Yeah, let's take a look at the next slide. So this question is written in a Python programming language, and even though students don't know the language, but when they read it, the description, then they can figure it out. It basically says that take a number from the user, and then if that number greater than 5, then print the number that's less than 5 less than it, and otherwise print 1. And so the explanation is given, and kids with can figure that one out. That's one example. Let's take a look at the next slide. So this slide, look, as you see, if you did some code.org puzzles, especially graph paper programming, you see, or some online puzzles on Maze, these are kind of similar. This one is called Pig Painter, and she's a programmer robot, and she moves up, down, left, right, and she can paint. And so as you see in a program that is written, there are a couple of question marks. And so students starting at the start position have to figure out if they go up and then to the right, then they paint. And then at some point you see their question marks, and they need to figure out what operation goes there, what command goes there. So it is accessible, of course, for them. Take a look at another kind of problem, the next one. So these problems are interesting. As you see right now, it's kind of clear that all cards on the left of the divider have some feature that cards to the right of the divider don't have. And then on the bottom, we have 5 pictures, and kids need to figure out which 3 out of those on the bottom belong on the left side. Now you might think that it's very straightforward because all the left pictures have a darkened triangle, and the ones on the right don't have it. But actually, these slides were not reproduced exactly. And when you go to the slides that from PDF file, you would see there were also like circles, and there were more on this picture, so it was harder to pick up the pattern. But even this one is very nice for the beginner kids to figure out what's going on. Yep, let's take a look at the next slide. So these 18 contest questions, there's 6 in each meets, 6 times 3 is 18, are for last year, are located, as you see where they are, at skylit.com. You can, they're good to use with kids who, for example, finish some of your puzzles. You don't want them to move ahead in a different stage because you want to do an unplugged lesson. So you can give them these enrichment problems and have them solve those, and then together go with the rest of the kids to the next stage or next unplugged activity with you. And here's a link to register for the upcoming year. Yep. So there are two places to register, either directly at skylit.com or at CML, Continental Math League. Yep. And for the next puzzle, you see, I wanted to mention for the next slide, we see that ngard problem, the one with the patterns on the left and on the right, this is really the whole series of questions with all kids like. And they are of increasing difficulty. Mikhail ngard was a Russian computer scientist and one of the pioneers of AI and machine learning. And he was trying to get computer to recognize the patterns. And so he started with many of these puzzles, and then they were so popular that many other people started writing their own puzzles. And people keep adding new puzzles. And on the next slide, you will see that, let's take a look. This is the first slide that is the first ngard problem. And I tried it with my granddaughter who was 4, and she figured it out pretty quickly. And of course, we have our students in kindergarten. And then the second puzzle was harder, third puzzle harder, but they start very nicely, very simply. Yeah. Now let's take a look at the next slide. In the next slide, it says that there's an index of these problems. There are almost 300 problems, and they're all compiled and one after another, and you can solve them on a computer and also on an iPad, and you can very nicely slide from one to the next, with the kids. And also you can design your own ngard problems as well. And with Gary and I designed one for this year, for the upcoming year. Out of 3 contests, one of them will again have a ngard problem. Yes, I think that's pretty much it. Let's just see. I think that's just the last thing. That's my email, if you'd like to email me, and to answer any questions about either ngard problems or about the Continental Math League contest. So if you have questions. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. It's wonderful to see these ideas for how to push our students further beyond CS fundamentals. If you have questions for Maria, please do put them in the chat pod. Maria, do you know how to look and see if there are questions there for you? And then if you're watching this video later on and have questions for Maria, I'm sure she'd love to hear from you, litvin@pd.code.org. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Kiki, who's going to continue talking a little bit about how you can differentiate the CS fundamentals curriculum for your students. Kiki?
Woohoo! Yeah, differentiation is a big deal in the classroom, and especially in computer science, because we get to this place where we expect to be in lockstep with curriculum. Like every kid should be at every place at the same time. But when you're doing computer science, especially when you're doing computer science online, the self-guided tutorial nature allows you to let go of that a little bit. So we could go to the next slide, and it might be there, it just isn't refreshing for me. There we go. So there are some things that you can do when you're using CS fundamentals to give each of the children in your class a really good experience. And one of those things is not to hold them back a puzzle at a time. So even just allowing a few puzzles worth of flexibility is good. Like if you're walking down the street with a youngster, you might be able to say, okay, you can run ahead, but you got to stop at the street. Stop at the street and wait for us to get back to you. That's a good technique to use for some of your class. If you have kids that want to run ahead, let them to a certain extent and then say, when you get to this puzzle, I want you to start walking around the classroom and seeing if anyone needs help. Or I want you to start being an advisor in some way so that you can help the other kids that haven't got it yet. Similarly, there will be kids that are further back than the other students. And what you have to do as a teacher is figure out how far back you're comfortable letting them be before you send someone over to help them. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about going over and helping them yourself, because a student gets more out of figuring out another problem with another student than they do having the teacher go over and solve it for them. So you can start to get this gap in puzzles that's going to widen and shorten depending on how difficult things are. Also, if you look here, you actually can't see my screen because you're looking at the slides, but if you look at the image at the top, you'll see that for every concept, we have multiple stages. So we have the unplugged lesson that's getting loopy, and then we have 3 following stages of loops. Now, it is possible that you're going to go through all 3 stages of loops with your class. But if you have a student that's really struggling, rather than pull the rug out from under them and say, okay, well, you didn't finish this one, let's move on to the next one. It's possible to let those struggling students continue with maze loops until you're confident that they get it, even if the rest of the class has moved on to artist loops. And as a teacher, if you don't have time to do all those stages of loops, then you can just pick a couple and do those really well versus trying to rush through all of them. Now, you might notice that at the end, there are a few levels that are circled in blue, and those are assessment levels. So even if you only get halfway through the rest of the puzzles, you can then skip over to the assessment levels and make sure that the students are getting it. Some kids may not finish a stage, and that's fine. There are several puzzles at the end of every stage that are meant to just stretch them and challenge their abilities. So if they only get past the stuff that they need to get through to understand the concept, that's perfectly okay. And then another option is to have some pre-approved things for students to do if they get to the end. So if your students have gone all the way through the stage, you've got 5 students who are done and there's 20 minutes of class left, and you need to figure out something to do with them. They've already gone around and walked and tried to help their friends. Another thing that you can do is have links that you know ahead of time it's okay for them to go to. And whether that is a Play Lab link, so something still within CS Fundamentals, where they can spread their wings and try some creativity and mess with things that they might not know yet, but they'll be able to learn by doing, that's perfectly cool. Or send them over to code.org/learn, which is where a bunch of the big hits from the Hour of Code end up. So the programs that have had huge success in roping kids in as far as entertainment level, we'll put those over in code.org/learn, and the kids can go through and play with some other types of puzzles. And by doing that, you allow this flexibility and this engagement where the struggling kids don't feel like, oh, I'm holding everybody up and they're going to just fast forward me because I can't get it and everybody needs to move along. So we get rid of that frustration. And then on the other side, we get rid of the frustration of, oh man, I'm already done. I'm so bored. What do I do? And so now you can keep your whole class happy instead of just teaching to that middle third. With that in mind, talking about some special puzzles, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide and give you all a preview of something. So this is something that we just decided to put out just for you who are watching this. We're not going to be advertising it widely because it's not something that's going to stick around. It's not going to become part of our curriculum. It's just something special for you for taking your time to come here and watch the webinar. So this is a screenshot of one of our Halloween puzzles. And it's not quite live yet. It's still being tested. It'll be released tomorrow or the day after. And you'll be able to find it at studio.code.org/s/special series. And there are 3 puzzles in this series. And I'm going to quickly take you through them. So let me share my screen. And let's see if it will let me share Firefox here. So I'm going to assume you can see this, and I'm going to proceed forward as if you can see this. So here is the special level that I had the screenshot of. This is actually the 2nd level. And I see a chat message, so I just want to make sure. Oh, but if I switch over there, you'll be able to see that too. Okay, so if there is a problem, please unmute your microphone and go ahead and tell me. But
Kiki, you're great. We can see you. Everything's awesome.
Okay, thank you. So here we go. We've got this, and this is just asking you to fill up the sky with stars. And here we've actually done the majority of the coding for you. There's just a few random integer blocks to drop around. Now you'll notice we don't go through and tell you what all of these are. We don't say, hey, here's how you use this block. This is all meant to be self-exploration, and it's all meant to be just a good time to play and doodle around here. So we have stars. Let's put between 5 and 7 points on our star. Let's make them between 50 and 75 pixels long. And then we'll jump forward between, oh, you know what, that might be big. Let's put that in here, how far we jump between each star. And then the length of our star. And you'll see that it says to repeat this 0 times, which isn't going to make a very interesting drawing. So we can start by repeating it 3 times and see what happens. And we can run that and we get a nice little, it's kind of almost drawing a star within a star, but it doesn't really do very much. So then what happens if we do, thanks. And then your kids can share these and put them in their gallery, just the same as they can with any other artist drawing. So now I'm going to move through and I'm going to do 20 times repeat. And it takes a little while to draw stars, so I probably won't let it keep going. But you'll see that you get a much more interesting drawing by doing this more times. And the kids can play with anything. They can mess with any of the parameter numbers, and it's all free play. So there's not going to be a right answer and a wrong answer. They can just play with it, and whatever they end up with, they end up with. The first one is a ghost. So we have just a very nice simple warm up here. And you'll notice we give no starting code. So they have to figure out how to make the eyes of the ghost. And we give them all of the functions that they need to do that and more. So if they wanted to do eyes on the ghost and then give it a pinwheel mouth, they're more than welcome to do that. And then we end up with an artist level. And this just says, program the artist to design a face for your jack-o'-lantern. So you can go through and draw a jack-o'-lantern any way you want, and then just save it to your gallery, share it with your friends, let your friends remix it and do more things with it. And it's just kind of a fun one-day way to get your students re-energized as far as artist goes. So now I'm going to try and pop back over here and stop sharing my screen. And there we go.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get myself off mute there because I was switching screens around, but Kiki's super cool, so much fun. I know that a lot of folks were excited in the chat pod when they saw these levels. Again, they're not live right now, but they will be live tomorrow or the next day. And if you follow Teach Code on Twitter, we'll announce when it's live, or you can check out our blog. The URL is behind me, but it's teacherblog.code.org. And if you like these, let us know. Tell us on Twitter, tell us on the teacher blog. We have lots of creative ideas, and if you use things like this in your classroom, we'd love to hear it. Great, so thanks a lot, Kiki. And any questions or comments or feedback for Kiki, please feel free to leave in the chat pod. I'm just gonna move forward with some program updates from Laura, and then we will have some time for discussion at the end. So on the theme of differentiation and how you can push yourself and push your students, just a reminder that the Hour of Code is coming. We've had almost 50,000 educators around the world sign up this year already to host an Hour of Code. And many of you probably have done Hour of Code in past years or have signed up for this year. And this is just a really exciting way to build awareness in your community about computer science, get kids excited, get teachers and parents and community members excited. So really, eager to see what you all come up with this year and how you plan your hours of code this year. I'm going to just talk you through a couple details that are specific to this year. And if you have questions about Hour of Code, you can definitely ask us on Twitter, or you can go to hourofcode.com and we can answer them there. So we've just announced this week that every educator who signs up to host an Hour of Code is going to receive a $10 gift card to Amazon.com, iTunes, or the Windows Store as a thank you gift. So all you have to do is go to hourofcode.com, sign up, say you're going to host an Hour of Code, and you'll get a $10 thank you gift. I hope that everybody has a chance to do that. Keep in mind also, out of everyone that signs up and every organizer that says they're going to host an event, one school in each U.S. state, including Washington, D.C., will win $10,000 worth of technology for their school. So these prizes are, icing on the cake. The Hour of Code is fun enough on its own, but it's also nice to know that there's this incentive there. Also, I'm really excited this year to share with you guys, we've been working really hard to develop some new teacher resources. We know that there are a lot of folks who've done the Hour of Code now for 2 or 3 years, and they're ready to step up their game and take it to another level. And we wanted to make that easier for you this year. So we've updated our Hour of Code teacher page with 6 easy steps to get started. So if you or someone in your building has never done it before and you want to make it easy for them, the how-to guide should be much clearer now. We also have a template lesson plan that you can use to create your own Hour of Code lesson plan. And we're actually collecting those this year. So if you develop a lesson plan that works in an English class or a geography class for Hour of Code, share those. We'd love to be able to share them with our network. We have a really cool slide deck that has some best practices from past Hour of Code teachers. You can find that on the teacher resources page. And we're hosting 2 webinars coming up, one in November and one in December. Be similar format to this kind of a webinar, but we'll be presenting. The first one's called Educator's Guide to the Hour of Code, and that will explain how you can get up and running with the Hour of Code and give you some ideas for what you can do in your classroom. So we'd love to see you on that one. The webinar that we're doing in December is called Sneak Peek 2015 Tutorials, and that's when we'll be talking to you about our new and exciting tutorials that we're developing for this year. Those are going to be available on November 11th. So that's the end of my Hour of Code announcements, and I wanted to just open it up for questions now before we move on. So let me check into the chat pod. If anyone has a question or a comment or something that you would like to share, please do put it in the chat pod now, or you can unmute yourself and share with the group. Let's see. So Kim asks, is it too late to still register for the Hour of Code $10,000 prize? I don't believe so. I think that if you are signed up as an organizer, I think you're registered. But I would check at hourofcode.com, and I'll double check on the deadline for you as well, Kim. I'm pretty sure it's still open for registration. Are there any other questions or feedback? Today our theme was really around differentiation and how you keep the CS fundamentals curriculum exciting for your students. So we'd love to hear any strategies you all have for that. Of course, if you have any feedback or ideas, we always love to hear it on Twitter. You can tweet at us at TeachCode. Keep in mind that we're going to be having these monthly meetings on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. So our next meeting will be in November 17th. And Kiki and I will be here along with Laura and another special guest to share with you great strategies that you can use in your K-5 classroom. Keep in mind that all of our events are listed at code.org/educate/events, and you can register for those that interest you so that you can receive a reminder and also a recording if you missed the event. And then also keep in mind, as I said, we would love to continue this conversation about differentiation and Hour of Code on Twitter. You can tweet at us at TeachCode. You can also take a look at our Tumblr blog, teacherblog.code.org. That's where we're going to publish those Halloween puzzles tomorrow if you're looking for them. And we also have forum.code.org, which is our online professional learning community where you can post questions and get answers from other teachers in the community. So that's all we have for you today. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to be posting this recording shortly for anybody who missed part of the presentation. And we hope to see you all soon, coming months. If you have further questions, feel free to add them to the chat pod or hit us up on Twitter. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Kiki. Thanks, Maria.
Bye.